So again, as I said, why is there this increasing fear of death? Why is there a 300% increase in suicide attempts by our youth in the last decade? Between 100 and a 300% increase. Depends on which group you look at. And again, we see all these news media things. Science can extend your lifespan. You can cheat death. As a doctor, and we have another physician in the room, life is 100% fatal. I don't know. The last time I checked, we all still die. And then the newest science, exercise keeps you young. Why DNA is not your destiny. Again, I missed that class in medical school that you can just change your DNA. I'm a male. I can change my Y chromosome to an X. I didn't know this. I missed that class. So, there are no natural laws. You can do what you want. It's like, I missed it. I must not have done so well in school. So as I started exploring more and more, I realized what's happening is, on the one hand, we believe that science can answer everything, and yet we don't believe in science when it's inconvenient. So this is an example of the second law of thermodynamics, which is what we call entropy, which is called disorder. And in human terms, we call it aging. As you grow older, your cells go from complex to simple, and that's what we call aging. It's also the reason we don't live in an eternal universe, because if we lived in an eternal universe, the sun would have burned out and we would be in darkness. So this is an immutable law of the universe. Now, if there's anyone in here from another universe, please raise your hand, because all we know about is this universe, and if the laws don't apply to your universe, let me know after this, okay? So this is my office. I'm just showing you what entropy is. Chaos. And this is a Eucharistic miracle. There's been 3 since 1996, scientifically studied by physicians, by scientists, by botanists, by a number of people, and we'll get into all that evidence. So why are we seeing all these Eucharistic miracles recently? Why does the Shroud of Turin exist? I think, again, because we live in a scientism age where we can think we can explain everything by science. And an interesting fact about the Shroud of Turin, it's been involved in 3 fires. The latest one was not the latest one, but the most important one was in 1532, the fire of Chambray, which is part of the reason that it dates back to that when you do a carbon-14 test. But what's really important, I want to point out right now about that, is that the fire of Chambray was so hot that it melted the silver box. In those days, the Shroud of Turin was kept in a silver casket, silver box. And does anyone know what the melting point of silver is? 1760 degrees Fahrenheit. So the shroud and the burn marks on the shroud that you see, we'll see in later slides, that's what those burn marks are from. So 1700 degrees Fahrenheit, burn marks on the cloth. Why didn't the cloth go up in flames? Interesting fact. So, what is science? Science is based on observation and probability. Okay? So it's observation and probability. And what we as scientists say is that at 95% confidence level, so when we have a procedure that we're going to do, or a pill we're going to prescribe, or a treatment we're going to prescribe, if it works 95% of the time, we think, okay, that's enough evidence that it's going to be effective. There's still 5% wiggle room, right? Okay? So that's why sometimes theories, scientific theories and scientific treatments are debunked years later, because again, it's only 95% accurate, right? And also, you can fudge the results, and we've heard a lot of that in the news, how people have fudged the results. And because it's observation, your eyes can be fooled. We know about that. What's a mirage? Your eyes are being fooled. So our powers of observation are not infallible. In fact, scientific studies have shown that your memory of an event changes over time. So because you have a memory about something, it changes over time because it's colored by your emotions, it's colored by what you actually saw, what you think you saw, and what someone else said. And so we have found that our minds are not tape recorders, right? They're not video tape recorders. And so your memories, some of the elements may have changed over time. So science can only observe, but if there are transphysical, which we call supernatural or metaphysical events, science can't observe it, right? Because it means it's outside of the realm of observation. However, science can observe the effects of a transphysical, metaphysical, or supernatural event. And that is what we're going to see in the image on the Shroud of Turin. The image on the Shroud of Turin was created by a transphysical event, and we can observe that. So, and scientism is also at odds at relativism. We live in a very relativistic age. Again, we were just talking earlier about how if we don't like the law of entropy, so we don't talk about that we age, and yet you can't violate natural laws. And when we want to invoke our own thoughts on stuff, we ignore natural laws, and sometimes we follow them. So relativism says, I can believe what I want. So the other thing that's happened in recent years, and you see it all the time on TV, is correlation is not causation. And we try to do trial by testimonials. So, everyone's seen Oprah. She's got someone who was visited by a being from another planet. How can we validate that, right? How can we get to the 95% confidence level? So how can we make policy procedures? How can we decide science? How can we determine things based on testimonials? So what is relativism and why does it matter? The reason it matters is because what relativism says is there is no truth, right? And if there is no truth, your truth is your truth and my truth is my truth, then we truly live in a random, chaotic universe. And it really, what are we doing here, right? The first relativist was Pontius Pilate. Because as you remember, Jesus said, you say I'm a king, for this I was born, and for this I came into the world, so that I may offer witness to the truth. Remember, he's the truth and the light. Everyone who is of the truth hears my voice. And then Pilate says to Jesus, what is truth? That's relativism. And modern adaptation is to say it's absolutely true, and there's no absolute truth. That's a contradiction, right? It's absolutely true that there is no absolute truth, right? It's a contradiction. But that's what we hear day in and day out. Well, your truth is your truth, my truth is my truth. So we can agree and disagree, but hey, who knows what the truth is? Cardinal Ratzinger, who became Pope Benedict XVI, basically said the same thing. So again, back to if science is the ultimate truth and yet science is not infallible, then there is no hope. And again, St. Paul has saying about this, so if the dead do not rise again, then neither has Christ risen again. If we have hope in Christ for this life only, then we are more miserable than all men. And I think we're living in that age. Because if we don't believe in an afterlife, 2/3 of Catholics do not believe in transubstantiation. 2/3 of Catholics. The good news is that 2/3 of weekly Mass attending Catholics do believe in transubstantiation and the real presence in the Eucharist. So we're living this today, and that's why we're going through this today.